Hi guys, this lesson is on rates. It comes from the standard 6.RP.1.2 and we're going to be working on how to understand the concept of a unit rate as it's associated with a ratio, and we're also going to be using rate language to discuss what's going on with rates. You're going to need your workbook pages. We're going to be working through pages 31 through 34 today, and you will need a sharpened pencil. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about just reviewing some vocabulary that's really important for this lesson. So the first one is a fraction. The reason why we're bringing up fractions is because ratios and rates are written so that they look like fractions. So it's important to understand the difference between what a fraction is and what a ratio and a rate is. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and fill in our blanks. A fraction means a number that represents part of a piece or part of a whole. A ratio, this was from our previous lesson. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. And really we should probably use the word quantities where numbers is. So you can see that I made that correction there. Now, if you look to the right over here, it does give you an example of what everything looks like. So we talked about ratios in our previous lesson. So you can see that when we're talking about a ratio, it should look like what's listed here. 2 out of 3, 2 to 3, then you've got your colon, and then of course your 2 over 3. That makes it look like a fraction. So what we're going to be talking about today is the word rate and unit rate. So these next two are brand new vocabulary words that are going to be defined further in this lesson. But what a rate is a rate is a ratio comparing two quantities. So a rate really is the same thing as a ratio, comparing two quantities with different kinds of units. Now, when we're talking about units, we're talking about the words, I guess is the easiest way to talk about it. Now, if you look at the examples that's given here, the first one talks about 36 miles to 3 hours. Now, if we were to write this as a ratio, we would simply just write the number 36 over 3. But you'll notice here that they've got the words written here. Now, the meaning like they've got different kinds of units. The number on top represents the word miles. The number on the bottom represents the word hours. Now, if you remember from our previous lesson, we were talking about the paper clips. Even though we were talking about red paper clips versus blue paper clips, we were still talking about paper clips, and they were the same exact thing. So today you're going to notice that when we're comparing these two numbers, they're going to be comparing two different things, such as miles to hours and so forth. Now, the other example here they give you, if you look at the third one down that I'm circling now, talks about $26 for 5 bags. So we're talking about money, which is the dollars, and then bags of something. We don't know what it is. And then our last one down is the word unit rate. A unit rate is a rate that is simplified so that it has a denominator of 1, meaning like the number 1. So this one's pretty easy as well, because you're just doing the same thing that we've already done with ratios, how we had to simplify them. The difference is today is that we're going to be simplifying them, but we need to make sure that we include the words with them as well. Once again, they've given you an example of what those are going to look like over here to the right. And so this page is a really important page to review right before you take your quiz or your test, because it does include all the vocabulary that we're basically going to be dealing with almost for the remainder of this unit. So let's go ahead and look at our next page. So we're now looking at page 32. So once again, it does define the word rate and unit rate on this page. What I want you to remember is that the word or rate, when we're talking about rates, it has words. So we have to include the words in our writing. And the word ratio has only numbers. So that's what the difference is there. So you can see here where we have a ratio over here comparing 15 to 1. So there's no words there. And then we switch to rates. So we've got our 15 characters to 5 seconds. So that could mean that you type in 15 characters on a keyboard every 5 seconds. We don't know specifically what that means, but you can see that there are words there. And then our unit rate over here is basically what it is, it's 15 over 5 simplified. What they did is they divided both numbers by 5, and that's how they got the 3 to 1 that is over in that part, but they remembered to include the words. On the same page, we're going to go ahead and look at examples 1 and 2. Number 1 reads, Samantha picked 45 oranges in 5 minutes. Write this rate as a unit rate. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take 45 oranges in 5 minutes, and we're going to write it as a rate. And that's what they did right over here. Now remember, they included the words. Now, since it says to write the rate as a unit rate, it just meant that we need to simplify the numbers. So you're going to look at the 45 and the 5 and think to yourself, well, what number goes into both of them? Now, remember here, though, the key thing is that our denominator number has to be 1. So basically, you're pretty much always going to be dividing by that bottom number, which is 5. So 5 divided by 5 is going to give us 1. That's how they got the 1. 45 divided by 5 is 9, which is how they got the 9. Now remember, you do have to include the words. So the unit rate is 9 oranges over 1 minute, or you could also say in this example, 9 oranges per minute. If you look at example 2, says the Australian dragonfly can travel 18 miles in 30 minutes. So the first thing they did is they wrote this unit rate, or this rate, 18 miles over 30 minutes. Then it says, how far can the dragonfly travel in 1 minute? So what they did here, now here's what's different on this one. So this is really important that you guys pay attention to this one. When they simplified this guy, you notice what they did is they found the greatest common factor between the 18 and the 30. Now the greatest common factor between 18 and 30 is 6. So they excuse me. So they divided the bottom number, the denominator number of 30, and divided it by 6. That's how they got the 5. And they did the same thing with the 18. They divided 18 by 6, and that's how they got the 3. Now, this is technically not a unit rate, because in order for it to be considered a unit rate, you have to be able to tell how much it travels in 1 minute. So what the book did here, and I'm not really liking this example, but it is important that you understand how they did it. So what the book did here is does explain the ratio of 3 to 5 cannot be simplified to a whole number rate. So what they're doing is they just left it so that it's but in fraction form. It could be written as 3 miles over 5 minutes, or, and this is the part where they had it right here, 3/5 of a mile to 1 minute. Because if you were to divide 3 over 5 into a 1, like this, so that you're asking yourself, well, what would I do to go from 5 to 1? You would basically divide by 5. So therefore, you could divide your top number by 5. Well, if you write 3 over 5 like this, 3 over 5, another way to read that is 3 divided by 5, which is sort of what we have here. So they left this one in fraction form and then compared it to the minute. So 3/5 of a mile per minute, or for every minute, or in 1 minute. All right, so now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause your video and complete these 2 problems here. Just make sure that as you're writing your rates, you include the words along with it. All right, so let's check what you did here. So example A says, Emma downloaded 35 songs in 5 minutes. So what you see here, the first thing that I did is I went ahead and wrote my rate, 35 songs over 5 minutes. Then it says, how many songs does she download per minute? So what I did here is I went ahead and rewrote it so that it equals songs over minutes. I didn't fill in my numbers, but remember what your goal is to have a denominator of 1. So then I went ahead and wrote the 1 next to minutes. It's really going to be 1 minute without the S there. So I asked myself, well, what do I do to 5 to get 1? It's going to be divide by 5. So what you do to one number, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to do 35 divided by 5. 35 divided by 5 gives you 7. So what that means is Emma downloaded 7 songs every minute, or 7 songs in 1 minute. So in this example, it reads, Jonathan is baking several loaves of bread to sell in his bakery. He used 9 cups of water and 12 cups of whole wheat flour. How much water was used per cup of flour? So the first thing I went ahead and did is wrote my rate. So I've got 9 cups of flour over 12 cups of flour. I think I said the same thing. 9 cups of water over 12 cups of flour. Sorry guys, it's a bit late. So now the next thing I need to do is find the unit rate. Now just like in example number 2 a minute ago about the Australian dragonfly, you can't turn the denominator into 1 on this one. So what we're going to do is just simply simplify it. So what I'm going to do is I went ahead and wrote my words again. Same lines, and I decided that both numbers can be simplified by 3 because that's the greatest common factor. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3, 12 divided by 3 gives me 4. So what that means is 3/4 cup of water is used per cup of flour. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to skip page 33. We are going to cover that in the next lesson. And I want you to go ahead and look at the bottom of page 34. What I would like for you to do is to work on questions 1 through 4 only. Now, we have not gone through examples 5 and 6 yet for you to be able to complete 5 and 6. I think you could probably figure it out, but go ahead and focus on questions 1 through 4 so that you're ready to go when you come back to class. Well, that's all for now, and we will see you back soon.